Controlling your mind is one of the most powerful steps you can take toward real success. Every choice you make, every action you take, starts with your thoughts. If your mind is scattered, filled with doubt, or caught up in worries, it becomes hard to move forward. But when you learn to direct your mind clearly and with purpose, everything changes. You begin to make decisions that truly serve you, face challenges with confidence, and create the kind of life you want. This isn't about thinking positively all the time or pretending problems don't exist. It's about understanding how your mind works and taking charge of it so it works for you, not against you. You will learn how to focus on growth, replace fear with courage, and build habits that strengthen your mindset every single day. You'll discover how to break free from negative thoughts, protect your peace, and direct your energy toward goals that really matter. This process takes effort and patience, but it's the kind of effort that pays off in lasting ways. Each step you take builds your strength and brings you closer to your best self. Imagine waking up each day with a clear mind, ready to handle what comes your way, knowing you are in control. That feeling of calm confidence is not far away. It begins with learning how to manage your thoughts and train your mind. In this journey, you'll find practical advice you can apply right now, simple steps that fit into your daily life, and motivation to keep pushing forward even when it's tough. Your mind is the foundation of your success. When you control it, you control your life. Stay with this guide, and you'll learn how to master your mind for success that lasts. Chapter 1. Train your thoughts to focus only on growth. Most people don't realize how powerful their mind truly is. They wake up every day and let their thoughts run wild. They dwell on the past, they worry about the future, and they feed the fear that holds them back. They get stuck in patterns they didn't choose, shaped by habits they never questioned, and slowly they lose control. Not because they're weak or lazy, but because they never learned how to take charge of their thinking. The first step toward a strong, successful, and meaningful life is this: train your thoughts to focus only on growth. Not sometimes, not when it's easy, not when you're feeling motivated, but every single day, no matter how life looks or feels. You cannot control the world. People will say what they want. Circumstances will shift without warning. Challenges will come when you least expect them. But there is one thing you always have the power to control, and that's the direction of your thinking. That's the foundation of strength. Growth is not something that happens to you, it's something you train your mind to seek. And to do that, you must start by choosing what you give attention to. Because what you focus on expands. If you spend your days noticing problems, you will feel overwhelmed. If you focus on what's missing, you will feel empty. But if you train your mind to look for lessons, for progress, for what's possible, you will start to shift the way you live. This is not about pretending life is perfect. It's about focusing on what builds you, not what breaks you. That's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. Your thoughts are not just ideas floating through your mind. They are the foundation of every decision, every emotion, every habit you build. If you want to change your life, you have to change how you think. That's where growth begins. Not in the future, not after some big event, but in the small daily decisions to direct your mind toward what's useful, what's strong, and what's possible. Start noticing your thoughts throughout the day, not judging them, not trying to force them away, just paying attention. Are they moving you forward or pulling you back? Are they focused on growth or stuck in regret? Are they helping you take responsibility or giving you an excuse to stay the same? Every time you catch your thoughts drifting toward negativity, stop and redirect them, not with fake positivity, but with truth. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Or what can I do next? Or how can I grow stronger from this moment? These simple questions, Shift the mind from being a prisoner of problems to a builder of solutions. You have more control than you think, but you have to be intentional. The mind will follow whatever pattern you feed it most often. If you keep focusing on what's wrong, the mind will get better at noticing pain. But if you consistently train it to seek what helps you grow, it will start to work in your favor. This takes effort. It takes honesty. It takes discipline. But over time it becomes your default. And when that happens, your life changes, not because the world got easier, but because your mind got stronger. Growth is not a one-time decision. It's a way of thinking that must be trained like a muscle. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. But the opposite is also true. If you constantly let your mind wander into fear, comparison, or anger, those pathways grow stronger too. That's why awareness is everything. You have to become the kind of person who notices when your thinking is no longer serving you, and who takes action to shift it. Not next week, not when it's convenient, but the moment you feel yourself slipping. There are practical ways to do this. One of the most powerful is to start each morning by choosing your focus. Before the world has a chance to pull your attention in 100 directions, take a moment to set your mind on what you want to build. You don't need a long routine, just a few minutes of stillness where you ask yourself, what kind of mindset do I want today? What do I want to focus on? What kind of person do I want to be? This simple practice anchors your thoughts and reminds you that you are in control. Another powerful tool is to write things down. When thoughts stay in your head, they grow in all directions. But when you put them on paper, you see them clearly. You can challenge them. You can reframe them. Start by writing down your negative patterns, the thoughts that keep you small. Then ask yourself, is this thought helping me grow? If not, what would a more useful thought be? Write that too. Read it daily. Repeat it often. Repetition is the language of the mind. The more you repeat a thought, the more it becomes your default. Surround yourself with voices that lift your thinking. Not every conversation is worth your energy. If you spend time with people who only complain, gossip, or blame, your mind will slowly absorb that mindset. Protect your mind by choosing your environment carefully. Read books that challenge you. Listen to people who speak with clarity and discipline. Spend time in places that remind you of your goals. Your external world influences your internal world more than you realize. Take responsibility for what you allow in. When setbacks happen, and they will, remind yourself that growth does not mean things always go right. It means you always get something out of what happens. A person with a growth-focused mind doesn't ask, why me? They ask, what's this teaching me? They don't fear failure. They study it. They don't avoid discomfort. They grow from it. That mindset builds inner strength. You begin to trust yourself, not because life is easy, but because you know how to respond. That's real confidence. And it doesn't come from praise or success. It comes from building a mind that's anchored in growth. You also need to remove the expectation that change happens fast. Your mind has been shaped by years of repetition, environment, and emotion. It won't shift overnight. But every day you focus on growth, you're carving a new path. You're becoming someone who lives on purpose. And the more you practice, the less effort it takes. Eventually, you won't have to force yourself to think differently. It will happen naturally, because that's who you've become. Consistency creates identity. There will be days when your mind resists. You'll wake up tired. You'll feel defeated. You'll want to fall back into your old ways. That's when it matters most. Growth happens in the moments when you choose discipline over comfort. Not perfection, just effort. When your mind says this is too hard, respond with, I can grow through this. When it says, I'm not good enough, say, I'm still learning. Speak back to your mind with truth. That's how you take control. And don't compare your journey to anyone else's. You don't know what battles others are fighting. You don't know how long they've been training their minds. Stay in your lane. Focus on your progress. Measure your growth by how you respond to life now compared to how you would have in the past. That's real transformation. Quiet, personal, powerful. If you want a practical way to start right now, make this a habit. At the end of every day, write down one way you grew. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe you stayed calm during a stressful moment. Maybe you asked a hard question. Maybe you did one thing you were afraid of. Write it down. When you do this consistently, you teach your mind to look for progress. And when you start seeing progress, you build momentum. Momentum leads to confidence, and confidence leads to action. Train your mind to focus on growth, and your entire life changes. You become less reactive, less emotional, less controlled by what people think. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You stop letting failure define you. You stop letting doubt slow you down. Instead, you start showing up with purpose. You take responsibility. You keep your promises. You push through resistance. You think clearly. You act intentionally. That's the power of a trained mind. You're not at the mercy of your thoughts. You are the one who chooses which thoughts you follow. That's what separates the weak from the strong. Not talent, not luck, but the ability to control the mind when it wants to run in the wrong direction. Every time you pause, redirect, and choose growth, you build that ability, and over time it becomes who you are. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be willing to take your mind back, one thought at a time. Growth isn't something you chase. It's something you become by making small, clear choices over and over again, and it starts right here. Train your thoughts. Choose what you focus on. Build a mind that works for you, not against you. This is how you begin the journey of success, not by waiting for motivation, not by hoping life gets easier, but by taking full control of the only thing that shapes every part of your future, your mind. When you train it to focus only on growth, nothing can stop you, not failure, not fear, not the opinions of others, because you've built something deeper than confidence. You've built character, and that's what real success is made of. Chapter 2. Replace fear with actions that build your courage. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is a signal. It shows up when you're about to step into something unfamiliar, uncertain, or uncomfortable. Most people mistake that signal as a reason to stop. They believe fear means they're not ready or not capable, but fear often shows up right before growth begins. It shows up when something meaningful is at stake. And if you respond to fear by waiting until it goes away, you'll never move. You'll stay stuck in the same place, wondering why nothing ever changes. The truth is, courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. If you want to control your mind and move forward in life, you must replace fear with actions that build your courage one step at a time. Fear becomes a problem when it controls your decisions. It convinces you to avoid trying. It tells you that failure will destroy you. It tricks you into believing that discomfort is danger, and slowly, it shrinks your life. You avoid conversations. You stay quiet when you should speak. You hold back when you should step forward. Fear doesn't just freeze your progress. It rewrites your identity. You start to believe you're not the kind of person who takes risks. You begin to see yourself as fragile. You become more concerned with protecting your comfort than building your strength. And without even realizing it, you give your power away. The only way to stop this cycle is to take action in the direction of your fear, not big dramatic leaps, but clear, simple daily steps. If something scares you, that's often a sign it matters. If you keep putting something off, that's often where your growth is hiding. Don't wait until the fear is gone. It won't disappear on its own. Take the step anyway. When you take action while afraid, you prove to yourself that fear is not in charge, that proof builds confidence, and confidence builds courage. Every courageous person you admire still feels fear. The difference is, they've trained themselves to act anyway. They've learned that fear can scream in your mind and still be ignored. They know that what you do matters more than how you feel. This mindset isn't natural, it's earned. It's developed through repetition, through choosing discomfort on purpose, through understanding that courage isn't something you're born with, it's something you practice until it becomes part of who you are. Start where you are. You don't need to change everything overnight. Pick one thing you've been avoiding, something that makes you uncomfortable, but that you know would move your life forward. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's speaking your truth, maybe it's making a decision that's long overdue. Whatever it is, do it. Not perfectly, not boldly, just do it. Even with shaky hands and a racing heart, that moment is where your courage begins. Once you take that step, notice how you feel, not just the fear but the shift that happens after. The feeling of pride, the sense of strength, the realization that the story in your head was louder than the reality. That's how fear works. It exaggerates. It paints worst-case scenarios. It repeats lies you've heard before, and the longer you listen to it, the more believable it becomes. But the moment you act, the lie breaks. You realize that fear is not a fact. It's just a feeling, and feelings are not commands. You can feel afraid and still move forward. That's how freedom is built. To make this a habit, begin creating what's called a courage ritual. Every day do one thing that pushes your edge, one thing that reminds you you're not controlled by fear. This doesn't have to be extreme. Courage is built in the small daily choices. Speaking up in a meeting, saying no when you usually say yes, asking for help, starting something new. Each of these moments trains your mind to respond with strength instead of hesitation. What you avoid controls you. If you keep stepping back from fear, your mind learns to associate fear with danger. But when you consistently face it, your brain rewires. It starts to see fear as a signal of opportunity. That's when everything changes. You start welcoming discomfort because you know it leads to growth. You stop running from hard situations and start running toward them. You become the kind of person who does what others are afraid to do, not because you don't feel fear, but because you've learned how to move through it. Your environment also plays a role in how you deal with fear. If you surround yourself with people who always choose safety, it's easy to follow, but when you spend time with those who live boldly, their mindset rubs off on you. Pay attention to the people you listen to. Are they reinforcing your fear or challenging it? Are they encouraging you to stay comfortable or helping you grow stronger? Choose wisely. Courage grows faster in a culture of strength. Also, stop waiting for the right moment. There is no perfect time. Waiting only gives fear more time to grow. The right moment is when you decide to act. When you stop feeding excuses and start feeding your courage. When you stop asking, what if it goes wrong, and start asking, what if I grow because of this? That question alone can change your life, because it shifts your attention from risk to reward, from fear to potential. If your fear is deep, trace it back. Ask yourself where it came from. Was it something someone told you, a failure you experienced, a message you picked up as a child? Most fear is inherited. It doesn't start with you, but you carry it. You have the power to break that pattern. You don't have to pass it on. When you face it, when you name it, when you act in spite of it, You begin the process of healing, not just for you but for everyone around you. Courage is also about honesty, being real with yourself about what you want. Fear often hides in vague desires. You say you want change, but you don't define it. You say you want more, but you never commit to action. Courage means deciding. It means being clear. It means saying, this is what I want, and I'm willing to do the work to get there. That kind of clarity terrifies fear, because fear feeds on confusion. It loses its grip when you become decisive. You'll have setbacks. You'll act courageously one day and hesitate the next. That's normal. What matters is that you return, that you keep choosing action, that you remember the path is built through practice. One step doesn't make you fearless, but one step repeated every day builds the life you want. This is how you build a strong mind, not by waiting for inspiration, not by reading and hoping, but by doing the hard thing again and again, until it becomes who you are. You already have what it takes. Courage is not something outside of you. It's something buried underneath the fear, and every time you act in spite of that fear, you uncover more of your strength. You show yourself that your future is not defined by your fear, it's shaped by your actions, and you are in control of what those actions will be. Do not let fear decide the size of your life. Do not wait for comfort to begin living. Do not believe the lie that courage is for other people. You have the ability. You have the power. You only need to act. Start now. Choose one fear. Face it directly. Move forward with purpose. That's how courage is built, and that's how your mind becomes a tool for freedom, not a prison of hesitation. Chapter 3. Discipline your mind to choose what matters most. Most people never reach their true potential, not because they lack intelligence or resources, but because they waste their energy on things that don't matter. The mind is a powerful tool, but without direction it becomes distracted, scattered, and reactive. It runs to the loudest noise, follows every urge, and avoids everything that takes effort. That's why discipline is essential. Without it, you'll spend your life responding to what pulls you, instead of focusing on what builds you. The ability to choose what matters most is not a gift. It's a habit that is built through repeated choices, honest reflection, and conscious priorities. Discipline begins with clarity. If you don't know what matters to you, you won't know what to focus on. You'll say yes to everything. You'll chase distractions that feel urgent, but lead nowhere. You'll scroll, react, worry, and bounce from one thing to another because you haven't taken the time to decide what's truly important. The first step is asking yourself the hard questions. What do I want to improve? What do I need to cut out? What is truly worth my time, energy, and attention? These questions bring order to the chaos. They force your mind to stop drifting and start directing. Once you know what matters, the next step is choosing it. Not once, not occasionally, but repeatedly, even when it's inconvenient. That's where discipline separates those who change their lives from those who stay stuck in cycles. You will always have the option to drift. You will always feel the temptation of what's easy. But discipline is about staying loyal to your purpose, even when comfort calls louder. Choosing what matters most is rarely the most exciting option. It's often quiet. It takes effort. It requires saying no. And yet it's the only way to build a life you're proud of. Every day you face countless decisions. What to focus on, who to listen to, how to respond. Without discipline, your mind will look for shortcuts and distractions. It will jump to comfort, avoid friction, and resist anything unfamiliar. But when you build the habit of pausing before reacting, of choosing deliberately instead of automatically, everything begins to shift. You gain control, you create space between stimulus and response. That space is where transformation begins. It's where you start becoming the person who chooses direction over impulse. To strengthen this discipline, practice filtering your decisions through one simple lens. Will this help me grow? If the answer is no, drop it. If it moves you backward, let it go. If it keeps you in cycles you've outgrown, walk away. This clarity cuts through confusion. It removes the emotional noise that clouds your thinking. It keeps you grounded when the world tries to pull your attention in 100 directions. And more importantly, it keeps you aligned with the life you are building instead of the habits you are breaking. There will be days when you feel tired. Days when your mind tries to convince you that effort is pointless. That's when discipline matters most. Not when you feel inspired, but when you feel resistant. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about choosing progress when you don't feel like it. That choice rewires your mind. It reminds you that feelings are not in control. You are. Over time, this builds strength. Not just mental strength, but emotional resilience. You learn to act from principle, not pressure. Start small. If you try to control everything at once, you'll burn out. Focus on one part of your day. Choose one habit. Pick one area that you know you've been neglecting and give it your full attention. Maybe it's waking up earlier. Maybe it's finishing what you start. Maybe it's putting your phone down when you feel bored. These small acts of discipline create momentum. Each time you follow through, you send a message to your mind. I am the one who decides. That message, repeated enough, becomes your identity. Discipline also means making peace with discomfort. Growth doesn't feel good at first. Focusing on what matters means facing resistance. It means sitting with boredom, pushing through fatigue, managing frustration. Most people quit when it gets hard, but those who endure build something unshakable. The ability to stay focused when things get uncomfortable is rare. That rarity is your advantage. Train your mind to welcome discomfort as part of the process, not as a signal to stop, but as evidence that you're on the right path. You must also protect your mind from unnecessary input. Information overload is one of the biggest obstacles to clarity. Every opinion you absorb, every headline you scroll, every argument you witness pulls your focus in a different direction. Your attention is your most valuable asset. Guard it. Be ruthless about what you consume. Choose books over noise. Choose deep conversations over passive content. Choose stillness over endless stimulation. The less clutter you allow into your mind, the easier it becomes to focus on what matters. There will be people who don't understand your discipline, who tell you to relax, who mock your boundaries, who question your seriousness. Ignore them. They are not living your life. They do not carry your vision. The mind that seeks approval cannot seek growth. Choose one or the other. Discipline means saying no to distraction, but also to doubt. Your path won't always be popular, but if it's aligned with your purpose, it will always be worth it. Reflection is a powerful part of discipline. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I focus on what matters? Where did I drift? What can I do better tomorrow? These questions create accountability. They turn your attention inward. They make sure you're not just moving, but moving in the right direction. This level of awareness transforms discipline from a forced routine into a chosen way of life. You do not need to be extreme. You do not need to control every moment. You simply need to choose wisely more often, to move with intention, to decide again and again to keep your eyes on the life you want instead of the distractions that offer nothing. This is how your mind becomes your ally, not a source of chaos, but a source of clarity. The truth is, most people don't lack time. They lack focus. They don't need more motivation. They need fewer distractions. When you discipline your mind to choose what matters most, You move faster, think clearer, and act with purpose. You waste less energy. You recover from setbacks quicker. You stay grounded when things get hard. And that kind of mental discipline is what builds a meaningful life. This is the path. This is the practice. Not chasing everything, not reacting to everything, but choosing, again and again, until choosing what matters most becomes second nature, until you no longer need to force discipline, because it has become who you are. Chapter 4. Strengthen your mindset by mastering your daily habits. Your mindset is shaped not by what you want, but by what you do each day. It's not the big promises or the moments of motivation that build strength. It's the choices you repeat without fanfare. The way you start your morning, how you respond to pressure, the things you feed your mind, and the habits you protect when no one is watching. These are the pieces that create mental resilience. If your habits are weak, your mindset will follow. If your routines lack direction, your thoughts will drift. To build a mind that stays strong in the face of challenges, you must design a life that supports that strength. Discipline begins where comfort ends. The moment you choose a habit that challenges you, you take control of your life. When you master your routines, you train your mind to obey purpose rather than mood. Your feelings don't decide what happens next. Your commitment does. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. You build confidence not by talking to yourself, but by showing yourself that you can follow through. Each time you do what you said you would, even when it's hard, you prove to your own mind that you can be trusted. Habits are silent teachers. They don't shout. They don't demand. They simply repeat, and through that repetition they either break you or build you. Your mindset will always reflect the patterns you live by. If you start your day with distraction, your thinking will be cloudy. If you begin with intention, your choices will reflect clarity. The way you sleep, eat, move, and plan shapes how you feel, and how you feel shapes what you believe is possible. This is not about rigid routines. It's about building a foundation that supports your best self without having to fight for it every day. The habits that shape your mindset are not always dramatic. They're often simple, quiet, and easily overlooked. The way you breathe when stressed, whether you stretch or stay still, if you take 5 minutes to think or jump straight into chaos, if you write your goals down or just hope they stick in your mind. These choices seem small, but they're powerful. They either reinforce focus or strengthen confusion. If you want a clear and focused mind, you must start paying attention to the details of how you live. One of the most effective ways to shape a strong mindset is to create a morning that sets the tone. Not a list of endless tasks, but a calm, consistent start that aligns you with who you want to become. Waking up with intention. Avoiding noise for the first hour. Moving your body to remind yourself that you're in control. Reviewing your goals so you don't forget what you're working toward. These simple habits direct your energy before the world tries to pull it away. They create space between you and the stress that waits for you. And in that space, your mind begins to strengthen. But habits aren't just about the start of the day. They're about how you handle the unexpected. When stress rises, what do you do? When plans fall apart, where do you turn? The habits you build in moments of peace become the tools you rely on in moments of pressure. If your only habit is reacting, you'll stay stuck in cycles. But if you've trained your mind to pause, to breathe, to reassess and reframe, you give yourself a different kind of power, the power to respond wisely instead of automatically. It's also important to examine what you allow into your mental space each day, who you listen to, what you watch, what thoughts you entertain without question. Habits aren't just actions, they're inputs. If your mind is surrounded by negativity, you will feel heavy. If you feed yourself noise, your thoughts will become scattered. You cannot expect mental strength while allowing mental poison. Build the habit of selective attention. Be intentional about what you consume. You don't need to be perfect, but you must be aware. Awareness leads to better choices, and better choices create a stronger mindset. Another key habit is movement. A stagnant body creates a stagnant mind. When you move, you release tension. You reset your energy. You remind yourself that you are capable. You don't need to run miles or lift heavy. Just move. Walk with intention. Stretch with focus. Connect your mind to your body. This connection grounds you. It brings you back to the present. And in that presence, your thinking becomes clearer and your emotions become manageable. You realize that you are not stuck. You are simply one decision away from a shift. Mastering daily habits also means simplifying your life. Complexity drains mental energy. Too many decisions lead to fatigue. Too many options create hesitation. Build systems that make your life easier. Decide your priorities in advance. Prepare the night before. Eliminate the need to negotiate with yourself every morning. When you know what your habits are, you don't have to spend your energy thinking about them. You just do them. That energy can then be used for creativity, problem solving, and meaningful progress. Consistency comes before intensity. The people who grow are not the ones who try to do everything in one day. They are the ones who do the right things every day. Show up, even when it's boring. Follow through, even when it's hard. Your mindset strengthens when your actions align with your intentions. You don't need to be motivated. You need to be committed. Motivation will come and go. Commitment creates results. There will be days when your habits feel pointless, when progress feels slow, when no one notices your efforts. But these are the days that matter most. Every small act compounds. Every routine is a brick. You may not see the structure yet, but it is being built. Trust the process. Trust your effort. Keep doing the work. Your mind is listening, and it is changing. Take time each evening to review how you lived. Did you stay true to your values? Did you show discipline? Where did you slip? Where did you grow? These questions are not for guilt. They are for learning. When you reflect without judgment, you give yourself the chance to improve. Improvement becomes habit. Growth becomes natural, and your mindset becomes unshakable. The life you want will not be built in a day, but it will be built daily, through your habits, through your effort, through your choices. Each time you show up with intention, you move closer. Each time you choose growth over ease, you strengthen your mind. This is not about being perfect, it's about being committed. And in that commitment, your identity shifts. You become someone who follows through, someone who can be trusted, someone who chooses growth every single day. Chapter 5. Break negative patterns by challenging every false belief. The beliefs you carry shape the path you walk. They influence your choices, your attitude, and the limits you accept without question. Many of these beliefs were not chosen by you consciously. They were picked up through childhood experiences, repeated messages, and emotional reactions that went unexamined. Over time, they settled in your mind as facts, but not all of them are true. And when a belief is false, it quietly forms a barrier between you and the life you're capable of building. You can't rise with a mind chained to old lies. If you want real progress, you must begin by questioning everything you assume about yourself and your limits. False beliefs don't always scream. They often whisper. They sound like, "I'm not good enough. I always fail. That's just who I am." They're statements that feel familiar, but carry no evidence. They disguise themselves as personality traits or permanent truths, but in reality, they're just unchallenged thoughts that have been repeated long enough to feel real. And the mind, being efficient and loyal to patterns, follows them without resistance. This is how negative cycles begin. You believe something limiting, act in a way that reflects that belief, and then interpret the result as more proof of the belief. It's a loop that keeps you stuck. To break this cycle, the first step is awareness. You must start noticing the beliefs that show up when you face difficulty, rejection, or uncertainty. What do you tell yourself when something doesn't go right? What's the first thought that appears when you try something new? These moments reveal the hidden rules your mind is following, and once you can name them, you can start asking the questions that lead to freedom. Is this belief true? Is there proof for it? Where did it come from? What would change if I stopped believing this? Some of your beliefs are inherited. They came from people who were afraid, limited, or broken themselves without meaning to. They passed those limitations on to you. A parent who told you not to dream too big, a teacher who labeled you, a friend who laughed at your goals. These moments plant seeds, and if left unchecked, those seeds grow into conclusions about who you are. But just because something was said to you doesn't mean it belongs to you. You have the right to examine every belief and return what no longer serves you. Real transformation starts when you stop arguing for your limitations. It's easy to defend what's familiar, even when it's hurting you. You might say, "I've always been this way," as if that excuse is inaction, but that sentence closes the door on growth. Who you've been is not a prison. It's a starting point. You are not obligated to repeat the past simply because it's comfortable. The mind will always prefer what it knows. That's not a sign of truth. It's a habit of survival. But growth begins when you stop listening to the voice that only knows how to protect you from pain and start listening to the part of you that wants more. Challenging a belief is not about pretending the opposite. It's about replacing the false with something solid. If you believe you're not capable, don't try to convince yourself you're the best. Instead, find real examples of things you've handled. Look at the times you kept going when it was hard. Remember the problems you solved without anyone's help. Collect evidence that proves you're more capable than your fear suggests. When the mind sees new evidence, it starts to update the old story. You don't change your beliefs by shouting over them. You change them by giving your mind something better to believe. Repetition is how false beliefs are formed, and repetition is how they're undone. Once you identify a lie you've been believing, create a truth that you want to live by, then repeat that truth through action. If you believe you're not consistent, become someone who shows up daily. If you believe you can't speak up, start speaking in small moments. If you believe you're not worthy, treat yourself with the respect you'd give someone you admire. Over time, these actions begin to replace the lies. You don't need to erase the past. You need to overwrite it with something stronger. Another powerful tool for changing beliefs is language. The words you use matter more than you realize. Saying "I always mess things up" becomes a script your mind follows. Saying "I'm learning to handle challenges better" gives your mind a new direction. It's not about lying to yourself. It's about choosing words that guide you toward growth. Pay attention to the way you speak, especially to yourself. Are your words lifting you or limiting you? Are they based on fear or on possibility? Every sentence you repeat becomes a building block of your mindset. Choose wisely. Beliefs also change through new experiences. Sometimes the best way to challenge a false belief is to step into the situation you fear and prove to yourself that you can handle it. Growth is uncomfortable by design. It forces your mind to stretch. When you take action despite fear, you interrupt the loop that kept the belief alive. You start to see that the stories in your head are often outdated. You are not who you were at your worst moment. You are not the same person you were when you first learned those beliefs. And if you're not the same, then those beliefs are no longer valid. It's also important to build a mental environment that supports new thinking. If you surround yourself with people who reinforce your doubts, your progress will slow. Seek out voices that remind you of what's possible. Read things that challenge your limits. Spend time with people who are growing, who speak truth, and who live with courage. Your beliefs are shaped by your environment, and you have the power to choose that environment every day. You must also accept that changing beliefs is a process, not an event. The lies in your mind will not vanish overnight. They will show up again, especially when you're tired or discouraged. Don't take their return as failure. Take it as a reminder to stay consistent. You're not just building new beliefs. You're building a new mental identity, one that no longer bows to fear, one that doesn't default to shame, one that chooses truth, even when it's hard to hold on to. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to outgrow the thoughts that once defined you. You are allowed to believe something better about yourself, not because you're perfect, but because you're growing. The real power lies not in never having believed a lie, but in having the courage to challenge it once you recognize it. Your future is not limited by your past beliefs. Unless you decide to protect them, you can release them, and you must, if you want to live a life that reflects who you truly are. What you believe becomes what you build. If your beliefs are rooted in fear, your actions will reflect hesitation. If your beliefs are grounded in truth, your actions will reflect strength. This is the shift, not a dramatic change overnight, but a steady process of questioning, replacing, and repeating. Your mind will resist. That's natural. But each time you choose truth over fear, clarity over assumption, and action over avoidance, you break the old cycle. And in its place, you begin to build a new foundation, one that honors your potential, supports your growth, and allows you to move forward without carrying the weight of lies that were never yours to begin with. Chapter 6. Direct your energy toward goals that fuel your purpose. Not all effort leads to fulfillment. Many people spend years working hard, staying busy, and striving for outcomes that leave them empty. The mistake isn't in their ambition, it's in the direction. Energy is a powerful force, but when it's scattered or misaligned with purpose, it becomes a burden instead of a tool. You wake up tired, push through tasks that don't matter, and wonder why progress feels meaningless. That's not a lack of discipline. It's a sign that your energy is being poured into goals that don't belong to you. Real strength comes from knowing exactly what deserves your effort and making sure every step is aligned with something that matters deeply to you. Purpose gives your energy structure. It acts like a compass. Without it, you wander. With it, you move with certainty. But purpose isn't something you find in a moment of inspiration. It's something you define through honest reflection. What kind of impact do you want to make? What problems are you willing to solve without applause? What work brings you a sense of quiet fulfillment, even when no one is watching? The answers to those questions point you toward a purpose that's personal and sustainable. And when you know your purpose, your goals stop being distractions and start becoming stepping stones. Not every goal is worthy of your energy. Some goals are inherited, pushed on you by culture, family, or social pressure. Others are driven by fear, the fear of being left behind, the fear of not being enough, the fear of disappointing others. These goals might look impressive, but they don't feel fulfilling. They demand more than they give. You might achieve them and still feel like something's missing. That's the danger of chasing what doesn't belong to you. No amount of success can satisfy a life built on the wrong intentions. Directing your energy means becoming selective. You don't have to do more, you have to do what matters more. That means saying no to the endless list of things that don't support your deeper purpose. You only have so much focus, so much mental fuel, so much emotional strength. Wasting it on things that are irrelevant to your values is how you end up burned out and disconnected from yourself. But when you give your energy only to the work that aligns with who you want to become, something changes. Your progress feels meaningful. Your struggles make sense. Your efforts begin to build something that lasts. You must become someone who protects their focus. That starts by being honest about what you're currently doing. Look at your calendar, your habits, your daily routines. How much of it is connected to goals that energize you? How much of it is done out of obligation, fear, or distraction? It takes courage to stop doing things just because they're expected. It takes strength to walk away from noise and move in a direction that feels quiet but real. But this is how you reclaim your life, by no longer giving your best hours to things that drain you, and instead investing that time in what moves you forward with purpose. Purpose doesn't mean ease. It doesn't mean you'll enjoy every moment. It means your struggle serves something higher. It means your discipline is no longer wasted. There will still be hard days, but the difficulty will feel worthwhile. You'll face setbacks, but they won't shake you because you're building something you believe in. When your goals match your values, you no longer need motivation to keep going. You're fueled by clarity. You're driven by alignment, and that's a kind of strength that lasts longer than temporary inspiration. Sometimes you discover your purpose through elimination. You try things. You notice what feels empty and what feels energizing. You learn by doing, and in that process you start to define what kind of work is meaningful to you. But once you've found something that feels true, don't keep it in the background. Design your goals around it. Set clear intentions that reflect the kind of life you want to live. A purpose without structure is a wish. You give it power by making it real, by creating daily actions that reflect it, and by refusing to compromise it for anything that offers short-term gain but long-term regret. Your goals should stretch you, not distort you. They should challenge you to grow, not pressure you to become someone you're not. Pay attention to the goals that make you feel small, anxious, or disconnected. Those are signs you're chasing something out of alignment. Real purpose challenges you without breaking you. It pulls the best out of you, but it never asks you to betray your values. There is a difference between discomfort that leads to growth and discomfort that leads to disconnection. One builds you, the other drains you. There will always be people who don't understand your choices. When you begin directing your energy toward goals that reflect your purpose, you might lose approval. You might seem unpredictable, but approval is not your goal. Truth is, you are not here to fit in. You are here to live with clarity, to grow with integrity, and to leave behind something that reflects your deepest values. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you stopped living on autopilot and started moving with intention. Let your results speak for you. When your goals fuel your purpose, progress becomes personal. You're not chasing success to impress others. You're moving toward a life that fulfills you, regardless of recognition. That's where peace is found. In knowing that you're not wasting your energy on appearances, you're building something honest. You're living in alignment, and that alignment becomes a source of strength that no setback can take from you. There will be times when you feel tired, uncertain, or overwhelmed. That's normal. But in those moments, return to your why. Remind yourself of what you're working toward and why it matters. Purpose gives you a reason to keep going when comfort tells you to stop. It keeps you grounded when distractions try to steal your attention, and it reminds you that every small effort contributes to something greater. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do what matters consistently, with heart and honesty. Start where you are. Define what feels meaningful to you. Remove what doesn't serve that meaning. Align your habits, your focus, and your goals with what brings you closer to that deeper purpose. You don't need permission to begin. You don't need perfection to keep going. You just need the willingness to stop giving your energy away to things that don't build the life you want. That decision alone will change everything. When you direct your energy with clarity, the world no longer pulls you in every direction. You become anchored. You become intentional. You become unstoppable. Chapter 7. Build mental toughness through clear and honest reflection. Most people search for strength in results. They believe that achieving more, doing more, or appearing successful will somehow make them mentally tough. But true resilience doesn't come from appearances or accomplishments. It comes from the quiet process of looking within, not once, not occasionally, but constantly. Mental toughness is born from honest reflection, when you stop running from your weaknesses and choose instead to understand them. The hardest kind of strength is not physical, and it's not external. It's the strength to face yourself fully and still move forward. You grow stronger when you tell yourself the truth, not the polished truth, not the version that makes you feel safe, but the actual truth about how you think, how you react, how you make decisions, and how you handle stress, failure, and discomfort. That truth might sting. It might make you uncomfortable, but if you're willing to face it without denial, you'll begin to take real control over your life. You can't fix what you refuse to acknowledge, and you can't change what you keep blaming on other people or the world. When you reflect with clarity and honesty, excuses fall away, and what remains is a clear picture of who you are, what's holding you back, and what must change. People avoid reflection because it forces them to stop lying to themselves. It's easier to distract yourself with entertainment, achievement, or busyness than it is to sit in silence and ask, what patterns am I repeating? What am I pretending not to know? Where am I being lazy with my thoughts? But if you avoid these questions, you remain stuck in cycles that drain you. You react instead of choose. You escape instead of face. You cope instead of grow. But the moment you choose to reflect without judgment, you start to build real self-awareness. And that's the foundation of mental toughness. Toughness doesn't mean being emotionless. It means being aware of your emotions and learning how to respond to them wisely. When you reflect daily, you start to catch the stories you tell yourself, the ones that lead to self-doubt, anger, procrastination, or giving up. You notice how fear creeps in when you're tired. You recognize how comparison distorts your view of progress. You see how comfort tries to trick you into staying the same. Reflection gives you insight, and insight gives you power. Not power over others, power over your reactions, your mindset, your focus. There is no substitute for honest time alone. No one can do your inner work for you. No coach, friend, or book can replace the moments where you sit quietly and ask hard questions. Did I give my best today? Did I act in alignment with my values? Did I react out of emotion or respond with intention? Where did I waste time? What am I avoiding? These questions aren't meant to shame you. They're meant to sharpen you. Each answer helps you get closer to the kind of person you want to become, and the more often you ask, the more naturally your mind will start to seek truth instead of comfort. People with mental toughness don't wait for motivation. They act based on clarity. They know what they stand for, what they're building, and what they need to improve. They know their weaknesses but aren't ashamed of them. They know their strengths but don't rely on them alone. They train their mind the way others train their body, through repetition, discipline, and honest assessment. If something isn't working, they don't hide it. They face it, learn from it, and adjust. That's what makes them consistent, even when life is difficult. They aren't stronger because life is easier. They're stronger because their self-awareness is sharper. To develop that kind of strength, you must give yourself time each day to reflect. That doesn't mean overthinking. It means creating space to observe your thoughts, emotions, and choices with clear eyes. It means asking yourself, without filters, whether the way you're living is in alignment with the person you claim to be. If it is, keep going. If it's not, correct it. That quiet check-in is more powerful than any external validation. It puts you back in control. It reminds you that your progress is not about perfection, it's about honesty, adjustment, and consistency. Mental toughness also grows when you stop running from discomfort. Most people avoid difficult emotions. They hide behind anger instead of facing sadness. They chase distraction instead of sitting with insecurity. But every emotion is a signal, and if you're willing to sit with your discomfort and reflect on what it's teaching you, it becomes fuel for growth. You realize that fear is showing you what matters, that jealousy is showing you where you feel inadequate, that procrastination is revealing a lack of clarity. When you reflect, you turn every struggle into a teacher, and that's how you stop being afraid of hard moments. You start learning from them. The truth is, your future depends on your ability to be real with yourself, not just when things are calm, especially when things are hard. When everything is going wrong, can you still pause and look inward instead of lashing outward? When failure hits, can you resist the urge to blame and instead ask, what did I miss? What must I do better? That kind of reflection is rare, but it's the key to long-term strength. Because once you stop fearing your own truth, nothing outside of you can shake your foundation. You don't need to reflect for hours every day. Start with 5 honest minutes. Ask yourself what worked today, what didn't, and why. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Sit with it in silence. The format doesn't matter. The consistency does. Over time you'll start to see patterns. What derails you, what motivates you, what needs to be let go. And once you have that awareness, you'll make sharper decisions. You'll spend less time in confusion and more time in alignment. And most importantly, you'll stop being a stranger to your own mind. When you're clear with yourself, you're stronger in the world. You don't chase validation. You don't crumble under criticism. You know where you stand. You know what you're working on. You've faced your flaws, and you're improving from the inside out. That's the kind of mental toughness no challenge can break. Not because life gets easier, but because you've become harder to knock off course. Keep showing up for that inner conversation. Keep choosing truth over comfort. Keep learning from your reactions instead of justifying them. That's how mental toughness is built. Not in one dramatic moment, but in the quiet, repeated decision to see yourself clearly and grow anyway. That kind of mindset won't just help you survive challenges. It will prepare you to overcome them with grace, with power, and with unshakable clarity. Chapter 8. Protect your peace by setting strong daily boundaries. Peace doesn't come from silence or solitude alone. It comes from what you allow and what you no longer tolerate. It begins the moment you realize your time, energy, and attention are limited, and that not everyone or everything deserves access to them. The world is noisy. Demands are constant. People will take more than you can give if you don't draw the line. Peace is not found in escape. It is created through strong daily boundaries that protect your space, your energy, and your ability to think clearly. You don't set boundaries because you're rude or distant. You set them because your well-being is worth guarding. Most people wait until they're overwhelmed before they say no, but by then it's too late. Their mind is scattered, their emotions are drained, and their focus is gone. Living reactively puts your peace at the mercy of the day. You respond to pressure. You scramble to please. You try to catch up. But when you create clear, consistent boundaries in your daily life, you stop living on defense. You begin to own your time instead of giving it away by default. You start to plan your days around what matters most, not around other people's urgency or opinions. You don't need to explain your boundaries to everyone. You only need to honor them. If you keep justifying your choices, you'll end up negotiating your peace. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will not encourage you to create them. That's not your concern. Your job is to get clear on what drains you, what distracts you, what derails you, and then decide, firmly and without guilt, what you will no longer allow. This isn't selfish, it's responsible. You can't give your best to others if you're constantly depleted from overcommitting, over-explaining, or overextending yourself. A strong boundary isn't a wall, it's a doorway with a lock. You decide what enters, you decide who stays, you decide how far people can go. If someone disrespects that, the answer isn't to bend, the answer is to reinforce. You don't argue, you act. You don't defend your peace with long speeches, you defend it with consistent behavior. The more you respect your own time and values, the more others will either rise to meet that standard or fall away. Both outcomes are useful. One strengthens your circle, the other clears it. Your peace is most vulnerable in small daily choices. Saying yes when you mean no, answering messages out of obligation, letting urgency dictate your schedule. These moments may feel harmless, but they add up. Each time you violate your own boundary, you chip away at your confidence. You reinforce the idea that your needs are less important. That's how burnout begins. Not with one big event, but with repeated self-neglect disguised as flexibility. Peace requires structure. It requires you to value your energy as a resource, not an afterthought. You don't have to be aggressive to be firm. You can be kind and clear. You can be compassionate without being a doormat. You can help others without harming yourself. But that only happens when you decide in advance what your limits are. How much time will you give to shallow conversations? How often will you allow interruptions? When will you stop working? When will you rest without guilt? If you don't decide, someone else will. The world has no shortage of expectations. If you're not intentional, you'll live on autopilot, and your peace will be the price. Protecting your peace also means protecting your mental space. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every opinion requires a response. Not every invitation needs a yes. Silence is a boundary. Not engaging is a decision. Turning off your phone, stepping away from chaos, saying, "I'll get back to you." These are not signs of avoidance. They are signs of self-respect. You are not required to be constantly available. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to be unreachable when you're recharging. That pause is not weakness. It is wisdom. You must also create boundaries around your thoughts. Worry, doubt, and overthinking are internal habits that can destroy your peace from within. That's why you must notice what you allow yourself to dwell on. Are you replaying conversations that already happened? Are you stressing about things that haven't occurred yet? Are you attaching your worth to someone else's opinion? Mental peace requires discipline. You can't always control what thoughts appear, but you can decide which ones you'll entertain. Redirect your focus, interrupt the spiral, breathe, center, and choose again. Peace is not passive. It's an active decision you make every day. It means protecting your morning so you can start with clarity. It means setting limits on your work so it doesn't consume your life. It means saying no to what's convenient if it costs you long-term well-being. It means being intentional with who you spend time with. Are they draining or energizing? Do they respect your time or abuse your generosity? Boundaries are not just for your calendar, they are for your relationships, your thoughts, your goals, and your self-worth. There's no peace in being constantly available. There's no peace in trying to please everyone. There's no peace in sacrificing your values to avoid conflict. Real peace is not fragile. It is strong, calm, and rooted in self-respect. And that kind of peace only grows when you choose to protect it. Not just once but repeatedly. You must remind yourself, especially when tempted to compromise, that nothing is worth losing: your inner stability, not approval, not convenience, not temporary comfort, your clarity, your energy, your focus. These are priceless. The more consistent you are with your boundaries, the less you'll need to enforce them. People learn how to treat you based on what you allow. If you keep making exceptions, you send a message that your peace is negotiable. If you remain firm, without drama or defensiveness, your presence becomes a standard. People will either match that or move around it. You won't need to argue or defend. Your life will reflect your choices, and the results will speak for themselves. Strong boundaries are not a reaction, they are a strategy. You don't set them when chaos arrives. You set them in advance to prevent it. You don't wait until you're overwhelmed to say no. You say no early, clearly, and without apology. The earlier you set expectations, the less friction you face later. The more clearly you define your space, the easier it is to protect. Living with peace is not about avoiding responsibility. It's about taking full responsibility for how you manage yourself. You are the gatekeeper of your energy. You are the one who decides what deserves your time. You are the one who must choose every day to guard what matters most, not through resistance or rigidity, but through grounded clarity and quiet strength. The more you choose peace through boundaries, the more you'll find it showing up in your mind, your relationships, and your results. It's not something you wait for, it's something you build, step by step, day by day, boundary by boundary. Chapter 9. Sharpen your focus by removing all silent distractions. Peace doesn't come from silence or solitude alone. It comes from what you allow and what you no longer tolerate. It begins the moment you realize your time, energy, and attention are limited, and that not everyone or everything deserves access to them. The world is noisy. Demands are constant. People will take more than you can give if you don't draw the line. Peace is not found in escape. It is created through strong daily boundaries that protect your space, your energy, and your ability to think clearly. You don't set boundaries because you're rude or distant. You set them because your well-being is worth guarding. Most people wait until they're overwhelmed before they say no, but by then it's too late. Their mind is scattered, their emotions are drained, and their focus is gone. Living reactively puts your peace at the mercy of the day. You respond to pressure. You scramble to please. You try to catch up. But when you create clear, consistent boundaries in your daily life, you stop living on defense. You begin to own your time instead of giving it away by default. You start to plan your days around what matters most, not around other people's urgency or opinions. You don't need to explain your boundaries to everyone. You only need to honor them. If you keep justifying your choices, you'll end up negotiating your peace. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will not encourage you to create them. That's not your concern. Your job is to get clear on what drains you, what distracts you, what derails you, and then decide firmly and without guilt what you will no longer allow. This isn't selfish, it's responsible. You can't give your best to others if you're constantly depleted from overcommitting, over-explaining, or overextending yourself. A strong boundary isn't a wall, it's a doorway with a lock. You decide what enters, you decide who stays, you decide how far people can go. If someone disrespects that, the answer isn't to bend, the answer is to reinforce. You don't argue, you act. You don't defend your peace with long speeches. You defend it with consistent behavior. The more you respect your own time and values, the more others will either rise to meet that standard or fall away. Both outcomes are useful. One strengthens your circle, the other clears it. Your peace is most vulnerable in small daily choices. Saying yes when you mean no. Answering messages out of obligation. Letting urgency dictate your schedule. These moments may feel harmless, but they add up. Each time you violate your own boundary, You chip away at your confidence. You reinforce the idea that your needs are less important. That's how burnout begins. Not with one big event, but with repeated self-neglect disguised as flexibility. Peace requires structure. It requires you to value your energy as a resource, not an afterthought. You don't have to be aggressive to be firm. You can be kind and clear. You can be compassionate without being a doormat. You can help others without harming yourself. But that only happens when you decide in advance what your limits are. How much time will you give to shallow conversations? How often will you allow interruptions? When will you stop working? When will you rest without guilt? If you don't decide, someone else will. The world has no shortage of expectations. If you're not intentional, you'll live on autopilot, and your peace will be the price. Protecting your peace also means protecting your mental space. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every opinion requires a response. Not every invitation needs a yes. Silence is a boundary. Not engaging is a decision. Turning off your phone, stepping away from chaos, saying, "I'll get back to you." These are not signs of avoidance. They are signs of self-respect. You are not required to be constantly available. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to be unreachable when you're recharging. That pause is not weakness. It is wisdom. You must also create boundaries around your thoughts. Worry, doubt, and overthinking are internal habits that can destroy your peace from within. That's why you must notice what you allow yourself to dwell on. Are you replaying conversations that already happened? Are you stressing about things that haven't occurred yet? Are you attaching your worth to someone else's opinion? Mental peace requires discipline. You can't always control what thoughts appear, but you can decide which ones you'll entertain. Redirect your focus, interrupt the spiral, breathe, center, and choose again. Peace is not passive. It's an active decision you make every day. It means protecting your mornings so you can start with clarity. It means setting limits on your work so it doesn't consume your life. It means saying no to what's convenient if it costs you long-term well-being. It means being intentional with who you spend time with. Are they draining or energizing? Do they respect your time or abuse your generosity? Boundaries are not just for your calendar, they are for your relationships, your thoughts, your goals, and your self-worth. There's no peace in being constantly available. There's no peace in trying to please everyone. There's no peace in sacrificing your values to avoid conflict. Real peace is not fragile. It is strong, calm, and rooted in self-respect. And that kind of peace only grows when you choose to protect it, not just once but repeatedly. You must remind yourself, especially when tempted to compromise, that nothing is worth losing your inner stability, not approval, not convenience, not temporary comfort, your clarity, your energy, your focus. These are priceless. The more consistent you are with your boundaries, the less you'll need to enforce them. People learn how to treat you based on what you allow. If you keep making exceptions, you send a message that your peace is negotiable. If you remain firm, without drama or defensiveness, your presence becomes a standard. People will either match that or move around it. You won't need to argue or defend. Your life will reflect your choices, and the results will speak for themselves. Strong boundaries are not a reaction. They are a strategy. You don't set them when chaos arrives. You set them in advance to prevent it. You don't wait until you're overwhelmed to say no. You say no early, clearly, and without apology. The earlier you set expectations, the less friction you face later. The more clearly you define your space, the easier it is to protect. Living with peace is not about avoiding responsibility. It's about taking full responsibility for how you manage yourself. You are the gatekeeper of your energy. You are the one who decides what deserves your time. You are the one who must choose every day to guard what matters most. not through resistance or rigidity, but through grounded clarity and quiet strength. The more you choose peace through boundaries, the more you'll find it showing up in your mind, your relationships, and your results. It's not something you wait for, it's something you build, step by step, day by day, boundary by boundary. Chapter 10. Commit every day to becoming your best self. Focus is a fragile resource. It's easy to assume that distractions are only the loud, obvious interruptions, the buzzing phone, the chatter in the background, or the sudden call pulling you away, but the most dangerous distractions are often the silent ones. These quiet thieves slip unnoticed into your day, eroding your concentration and scattering your energy before you even realize it. To sharpen your focus, it's essential to identify and remove these silent distractions that silently steal your mental clarity. Silent distractions often come in the form of clutter, both physical and mental. When your surroundings are chaotic, your mind follows suit. A desk covered with papers, an inbox bursting with unread messages, or a calendar packed with overlapping tasks create a subtle but constant noise. Your brain senses the disorder and responds with a low-level stress that pulls your attention away from what truly matters. Without realizing it, your mind jumps from one half-formed thought to another, never settling long enough to achieve deep focus. Clearing your environment is not just about tidiness, it is about creating mental space where your mind can breathe and fully engage. The digital world has introduced a new breed of silent distractions, notifications hidden in the corner of your screen, apps running in the background, and endless streams of information vying for your attention chip away at your ability to concentrate. Even when you resist clicking on every alert, your brain registers these interruptions as potential demands. The constant state of readiness fragments your attention and drains your willpower. To sharpen focus, it's necessary to manage technology intentionally. This means setting strict boundaries around your devices, turning off non-essential notifications, closing tabs that are unrelated to your task, and designating specific times to check messages or social media rather than allowing them to dictate your day. Mental noise is another form of silent distraction that many underestimate. Thoughts about unfinished projects, worries about the future, or replaying past conversations create an internal buzz that competes with your work. When your mind is crowded with these persistent background thoughts, it becomes difficult to concentrate on the task at hand. Learning to recognize when your thoughts are drifting and gently redirecting your attention is a critical skill. Mindfulness practices, such as focused breathing or brief pauses throughout your day, train your mind to return to the present moment and reduce the impact of internal chatter. Routine also plays a subtle role in sharpening or dulling your focus. When you move from one task to another without a clear plan, your brain must constantly switch gears. This task switching consumes energy and fragments your attention, often leaving you feeling scattered and inefficient. Creating intentional rituals around your work can help reduce this internal distraction. Starting your day with a clear priority list, breaking your work into focused blocks of time, and scheduling regular breaks for rest and reflection signal to your brain when to engage and when to reset. These routines strengthen your ability to sustain attention for longer periods. Physical distractions also contribute to silent focus loss. Hunger, dehydration, fatigue, or discomfort pull your mind away from work to address bodily needs. Often these distractions are so quiet they go unnoticed until your productivity suffers. Taking care of your body by eating balanced meals, drinking water, getting adequate sleep, and creating a comfortable workspace lays the foundation for sustained focus. Your brain operates best when your body is well supported. Ignoring physical needs is a distraction in itself, pulling you away from mental clarity. The people around you influence your ability to focus too. Even without direct interruption, their moods, energy, and habits create an ambient environment that affects your mental state. Negative conversations, unresolved conflicts, or a tense atmosphere silently drain your concentration. Creating physical or emotional distance from these influences during critical work times is essential. This might mean closing a door, using headphones, or establishing agreed-upon quiet hours with those you live or work with. Protecting your focus sometimes requires managing your environment as much as managing your mind. Language shapes your attention as well. Constantly multitasking and using vague or scattered speech patterns mirror a distracted mind. Developing clear internal dialogue and precise self-talk reduces mental clutter. When you give yourself clear instructions, you minimize the chance your mind will wander. Simple, direct affirmations about your focus and priorities help anchor your attention. For instance, instead of telling yourself, "I have a lot to do," say, "Right now, I'm focusing on this one task." This shift in language aligns your mind with your actions, reducing distraction. Not all distractions come from outside or inside yourself. Some come from your expectations, impatience, and the desire for instant results create a silent pressure that disrupts focus. When you expect too much too soon, your mind rushes ahead, skipping necessary steps. This impatience generates internal tension, pulling your attention away from the present moment. Cultivating patience and embracing the process allow your focus to deepen naturally. Recognizing that mastery requires time and consistent effort quiets the urge to rush, creating room for concentrated work. One of the most effective ways to remove silent distractions is by simplifying. Simplifying your commitments, your possessions, and your mental load frees up bandwidth. When your schedule is overloaded, your attention is fragmented. When your workspace is crowded, your mind feels cluttered. When your to-do list is endless, your focus is shallow. Choosing to say no to non-essential tasks and simplifying your environment and mindset creates clarity. This clarity acts as a lens, sharpening your vision toward what truly deserves your energy. The power of focus is not about forcing your mind to concentrate, but about removing the competing demands for its attention. It's like cleaning a window. Removing the dust and grime lets the light shine through. Every silent distraction removed brightens your mental space, allowing deeper engagement and more creative thinking. This process requires ongoing awareness and discipline because distractions evolve and multiply if ignored. Your commitment to removing silent distractions is a daily practice of choosing clarity over chaos. In practice, this means taking time each day to evaluate your environment and mind. Ask yourself, what is pulling my attention away without me noticing? What small silent interruptions can I eliminate? How can I create a workspace that invites focus? What digital habits keep my mind scattered? How can I build routines that protect my concentration? What physical needs am I neglecting that silently distract me? Honest answers to these questions become the foundation for focused action. Sharpening your focus by removing silent distractions also means training your mind to notice when it's slipping. Developing this awareness is like developing a muscle. The moment your thoughts wander or your attention frays, pause and gently bring your mind back to the present task. This practice of returning again and again builds mental resilience. Over time, your ability to maintain focus strengthens, even in less than ideal environments. Patience with yourself during this process is crucial. Mental discipline grows through persistence, not perfection. Another subtle but powerful step is to guard the beginnings of your day. Morning routines set the tone for your focus throughout the hours ahead. Starting with clarity and intention, reduces the chance that silent distractions creep in before you begin your work. Simple morning practices like meditation, journaling, or reviewing your priorities align your mind for concentration. This initial momentum helps carry your focus forward, making it easier to resist distractions as the day unfolds. It's important to recognize that removing silent distractions is not a one-time event. It's a continuous journey of refinement. New distractions arise as your life changes, so your strategies must adapt. Periodic reassessment of your environment, habits, and mindset keeps your focus sharp. The more you commit to this ongoing work, the more natural and effortless deep concentration becomes. Sharpened focus does not mean isolating yourself from the world. It means engaging with the world on your terms, with intention and clarity. It means choosing to direct your mental energy toward meaningful work instead of scattered noise. When silent distractions are removed, you reclaim your most precious resource, attention. This reclamation transforms how you think, create, and live. You move from reaction to control, from overwhelm to calm, and from chaos to clarity. Every moment freed from silent distraction is a moment invested in your potential. The discipline to remove what subtly derails you builds the foundation for lasting success. Focus sharpens not through sheer willpower alone, but through wise management of your environment and mind. When you protect your attention fiercely, your work deepens, your decisions improve, and your life aligns more closely with your true purpose. This is the power of removing silent distractions. Quiet, steady, transformative.